Hi there, Craig here, product manager at Broker Engine. I wanted to walk you through Broker Engine's market leading workflow engine, Workflow Builder, and it's super intuitive, super easy to use, super flexible. So anytime there's some sort of update or a process, or you have give your client a poor experience, whether it's your fault or someone else's, you can very quickly update your processes. And later on in the video, I'm going to show you a recent example where I updated one of my processes in about 5 seconds to ensure that for the next deal that comes through, we don't have that same issue. Here's an example of something I just put together really quickly. So what we've got here is the user, when you jump on Broker Engine, you can jump in here, you can create a new workflow. I've called this one conditional approval. You can then select which stage you want it to trigger on. So think about lead stages, deal stages, maintenance stages for variations, switch requests, and things like that. So when a deal or a lead moves into a certain stage, you can trigger the workflow. And you can decide whether it's going to trigger for the entire broker group or whether it's just going to trigger for individual brokers. You can then build your workflow. So in this case, I've done when a deal moves into conditional approval, I want a task, and I've just literally gone, add a task, like so. And then I can select the template I already have, or I can create a new task template by just giving the task name, who's it going to be assigned to, if anyone, priority, if it's linked to a checklist, so the task can't be marked complete until the checklist is done, and then a description there as well. So you can just very easily add that in. And tasks I've then got, just as an example, I might do an email next. So an email where I now send an email to the client. And so again, you can just select an email template you've already created, or you can very easily create a new one. Give it a name, give it a subject, who's it to, broker team, referrer, builder, solicitor, etc. And you can then just sort of start building your template. Again, we provide you with, out of the box, a default workflow for all of your stages. So when you jump on Broker Engine, you don't have to start from scratch. You don't need to think about it. We provide you with what we think is best practice, but you have the power to jump in here like I'm doing now and just make the little changes you want to make if the language isn't quite right for you or something like that. You can then do things like adding of contact tags. So the use of tags allows you to link into Zapier. So for example, you might want to do a task, an email, and then maybe an SMS or a try call or an email blast or something like that. There's many reasons why you could use contact tags. You can then do a delay. So you could do 2 calendar days, business days, because maybe you want to set a delay and then follow up if the client hasn't come back to you in 2 days. Then an email follow-up. You could do another email follow-up, and then there's an archive line option. You wouldn't obviously do that in this case, but that's just an example of a very quick workflow you could build in about 2 minutes for a conditional approval stage. And again, when you jump on, there will already be workflow there, so you just literally come in here and just go edit, change, whatever. You can just drag the steps around. It's very, very flexible. Other options we have from the workflow builder include things like client portal publish. So picture that you've got a web to lead. So you've got an internet lead comes in, it creates a lead in Broker Engine automatically. You could then have it that it automatically publishes a portal request. So a portal request being a request for documents, whatever it is that you need, or you can trigger that portal request at any time. So you might have any select which set of documents you're going to ask the client for. Other options that are more probably for other workflows, not conditional, include things like move stage. So potentially you might want to have, once a task is completed, you might want it to move on to the next stage. So you can sort of select which stage to move on to. And an important one for settlement would include setting fixed rates, clawback dates, interest-only expiries, and next review date. So that one will come out of the box for you at settlement. The deal will move into settlement, and it'll automatically update the fixed interest-only expiry dates, next review date, the settlement date to the date you moved it into that stage, and also set the clawback dates as well. So it's super powerful, super flexible, easy to manage. And the final point I'll just cover here before I show you through a live example is you have the option for trigger conditions. So you can go, look, I only want this workflow to trigger for a particular lender. So maybe you only want to trigger if, so maybe it's conditional approval or a submission one where you've got a lender that does a pre-assessment check. So, CBA does a pre-assessment, not St. George, I don't think, but CBA does a pre-assessment, NAB does a pre-assessment. So maybe you want a different workflow for lenders that do pre-assessment and a different workflow for lenders that go straight to an approval, a different workflow for lenders like St. George or Suncorp where they have that higher credit. So you can sort of make it so it's a workflow just for these lenders. You can make it so it's a workflow just for a refinance or a build or a construction. You can make it so it's a workflow just when a certain thing exists. So if you have a deal indicator is in another video, but super powerful way of automating all these little things like rate lock. So you might want to have a particular workflow only apply at settlement, for example, when there's a lender rebate. And if there's a lender rebate, you might do a wait 45 days, a task to follow up that the lender rebate's been approved, and then an email to the client say, hey, it's been approved. That already comes out of the box to you already. You don't need to build that, but that's just one example of where you might use that. And if you use multiple brands, you can use the brand selector as well. So I run a few brands, and so I can have different workflows based on the brand of my brokerage. Other steps that'll be here shortly include assigning a team. That's about to go live today. So if you have in your brokerage, someone that handles pre-assessment or the deal from lodgement to formal, and then a team that manages it from formal to settlement, and then post-settlement, you can actually assign and unassign a team. So once the lodgement to formal team has completed their last step, it'll automatically update the team and assign the deal to the other team. And there's a few more other cool ones coming as well, such as wait for first repayment due date, which are all due to go live shortly. And here's an example of that. So here's the unassign and assign step. So you can assign a particular team to the deal, and here is your wait until a particular condition is met. So you might want to wait until the first payment due date, or 3 days before the first payment due date, or before finance date, and things like that. So again, all those things will come out of the box to you. So to finish off, I just want to give you one example of how I would quickly update my processes in real time if something pops up and I want to improve it. So I quickly jump into the workflow builder, I'll click new, I've given a name. In this case, I'm just going to do an intro to lender on settlement. So in St. George introduction, I'm going to choose settlement stage, and I'm going to choose the lender St. George. So this workflow will now only apply or only trigger if when the deal moves into settlement and the lender equals St. George. And what I want to do is very simply, I'm just going to do an email to the client where I would have an email template that goes out to the client, and CCing in the local branch person I have a relationship with, so that local branch person can assist with the handover and setting up internet banking and things like that. You might do that at a different stage, but that's one example of quickly updating your processes. Another example might be when there's debt consolidation. So if you do a flag that there's a debt consolidation or debt consolidation, which is here. So if the deal is a debt consolidation loan and you've flagged the deal indicated debt consolidation, again, you might do an extra task or a checklist item to confirm that where the checks have gone, have they been issued, and there may be a delay and a follow-up with the client. And the workflow would run in parallel with your normal workflow, but that's sort of a way of just quickly updating those things. And when banks update their compliance requirements or add extra steps to your processes, or you've got to manage refinances and discharge authorities, again, you can very quickly edit the workflow. Main thing I want you to note, though, is that we do provide you with a default set of workflow out of the box, so you're not starting from scratch, and that will save you 100 hours if you're starting from scratch trying to build your own workflows, trial and error. Out of the box, we're giving you a very good starting point, which generally speaking, you'll be happy with 90% of it, and you'll just want to tweak the 10% and add in your own additional items, steps to match your current process and your current group. Craig Vaughan here, product manager at Broker Engine. If you're interested in the demo or anything tweaks your interest there, please reach out, brokerengine.com.au.